healthcare workers, if everyone gets vaccinated, you could use the argument their work will be a lot easier. ER nurses are probably looking forward to something like that. But James Patterson and Matt Everson are here right now. They both co-authored a book that's actually pretty fascinating. I understand it started before the pandemic, or the planning of it. ER Nurses, True Stories from America's Greatest Unsung Heroes. James and Matt are joining me now. Gentlemen, very good to have you.
Good to be here.
Good to be here.
You know, it's interesting, guys, and I was not meaning to insult you, but obviously every time we have authors on, I want to make sure I read their book. And I thought of the subject, and both great writers and have a great history of great books behind. I thought, how riveting is this going to be? It was both funny and tragic, and you could make me laugh and make me cry. But the day in and day out of what ER nurses deal with, beyond anything COVID related, it just hit home. Was that the thinking behind it? If I can begin with you first, James.
Oh man, we're getting your producer or something.
Oh, I apologize for that. Hopefully we'll correct that. My producer is talking. If you could stop talking.
Yeah.
Go ahead, James.
No, you know, Neil, that's exactly when we did. Everybody loves nurses per se, but they have no idea what a mind blower their situation is. And when we were doing the interviews, it was like it just would knock us out. And I think people reading this book will be the same thing. They have no idea, as you said, the humor, the emotion, and just the hourly stress. It's unbelievable what these people do. Unbelievable. It will blow your mind to read this book. I'm not just trying to sell books, but it will change how you, if you love nurses, you'll love them even more. If you respect them, you'll respect them even more.
You know, Matt, it's amazing because some of them come from all different types of backgrounds. And I remember there was one nurse who had served in Afghanistan and found the experience of just stealing an ER a heck of a lot more challenging than anything encountered over there. That was remarkable.
Yeah.
Well, it really is.
Well, Matt knows about that.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, these men and women are literally deployed their entire careers. I mean, they every shift, every day, every week, every month, every year, they are dealing with every worst case of worst cases routinely, and they deal with it with such grit, determination. I mean, I hate to be cliche about heroes among us, but they really are angels among us.
Yeah. And the other thing there, which I'm sure you experienced when you read it, is just story after story. You got the 600-pound woman and how they would deal with that. You have the pregnant man. You have this nurse who she fell in love with this husband and wife. The husband was dying, and she said, "Well, what could bring some joy to his life?" And she said,
I love that story.
The wife said, "His dog, his golden retriever."
Yeah.
And she said, "You know what? I can't do it, but I'm going to do it." And she snuck the golden retriever into the hospital room, and she's crying, and the couple are crying, and the dog is licking the tears off of the guy. It's just amazing, and it's one after the other in terms of the stories.
Yeah, they're juxtaposed against them getting cursed out or hit or whatever. I mean, you know, there's been
they get hit. They get hit.
Yeah, that blew me away. But, you know, Matt, there's been a change in thinking. I mean, in healthcare workers and then the whole dust up over the mandates for them getting vaccinated. We should stress here, I believe this was not in, you know, emergency room nurses and that sort of thing, or doctors. It was at lower levels. But there was sort of like a swing in sentiment toward them as a result. What did you make of that, Matt?
Well, you know, it was kind of interesting, Neil, in that we did, as you said, we started this, you know, in 2019 before, you know, anybody really had thought deeply about COVID. So all of the interviews kind of took place in real time. You know, nobody knew about vaccination. You know, these men and women were just leading with their chin every day. And as Jim says, you know, they of all of us, they were the most prepared and they were the most courageous. And so, you know, you kind of follow this trajectory all the way to where we are now. And it's a little baffling in one sense. You know, we never had the opportunity to really talk about shots and mandates and stuff like that. They, to their credit, you know, these men and women just wanted to save people whenever and however they could.
You know, it's funny too, guys. I was thinking in my own case, because everything comes back to me. I always find everything comes back to me. But James, one thing that struck me is having recently tested positive for COVID. I'm okay now. I don't want you guys worrying. But I'm thinking of how they isolate you and they want to put you in a closet and all the things, the precautions they're taking. And in the early days of the pandemic, these guys were exposed to all of this, endangering their own lives, and by extension, everyone around them, their family and everything else, just dealing with this selflessly without a word of complaint. That's what struck me.
Yeah, that, and also the fact that they're used to human contact. And one nurse was talking about how here's this poor woman that's dying and her family can't be there. And this nurse just finally said she's, behind the mask and the whole thing, and she just is just holding this woman's hand just so the woman can feel that somebody cares, somebody in that room cares about her as a human.
But we look at people when they get, if you think about it, guys, and you know far better than I after the book, when you go into the emergency room, you're not there to check into a hotel. You're hurt. You're hurting and you're angry. You're with relatives or others who are concerned and angry. And they had to deal with all of that. What did you learn from that and about their temperament?
Yeah, Matt?
Yeah, I was going to say, Neil, I mean, there's only three things that happen. You go in and you go out, you go in and you go to ICU, or you go in and you pass away. And, you realize that these are incredibly emotionally and physically and mentally tough men and women. And I mean, they don't suffer fools, lightly. They're the cowboys of nursing, but they're so empathetic and sympathetic as well. Even the toughest of the tough nurse ratchets out there still has this unbelievable, tenderness.
No, it's true.
It brings tears to your eyes just talking about it.
If I ever wanted to write a book, or Matt and I wanted to write a book about the underbelly of this country, I wouldn't know where to start, but now I do. Go to emergency rooms because they see this stuff every day. Every day, people come in and with these unbelievable stories and unbelievable things. People burn their kids. I thought the first time I read or heard one of the stories, I'm going, well, that's weird. No, it happens a lot. It happens a lot. It's an ordinary thing in emergency rooms. But it's just, as I said, I mean, people will sit there and go, oh, I don't know if I want to read about nurses. This will blow your mind. It will blow your mind. You will. There was one nurse, we had a podcast, and she was a moderator, and she'd given the book to her mother over the weekend, and her mother showed up on Sunday, and she was weeping, and she said, I had no idea what you do, honey. I read this book, and she just was weeping because she finally understood what nurses really do. We just sold the thing to one of the networks, because there's no television show that's been done about the nurses that is real, that gets at what they do. We're always with the doctors. You see the doctor for 5 minutes. The nurse is there all day.
Yeah, the doctors come in sort of like Elvis after your first.
I'm all for the doctors. Don't get me wrong.
All right, but your first contact is that nurse, and they're dealing with some genuinely hurting people, but a lot of times, and you guys bring it on, I don't want to give the book away, some genuinely crazy people. So they have to sort out whether this person is in real danger or this is just someone who has some other issues. How do they do that?